Okay, I did a lot of talking about cutting the side pieces. Best way to do this is using a table saw, and we're going to actually rip the lumber. Now I took all the guards and stuff off of this so you can see how I set it up with the blade. Once again, as with any power tool, safety first. It's not plugged in, it's just hanging here. Do not plug it in, it's almost like a handle. Don't load it until you're ready to shoot. Don't plug it in until you're ready to cut. Now we've got a couple pieces that we're going to work with to cut. This is our wood. I've got two of these. They're 5.5 inches by 48 inches, and it's a 1/4 inch thick. This is good poplar. It's a good solid hardwood. It's great to work with. Stains up to pretty much any color you want to stain it at. So we're going to cut both of these. The first operation is we're going to rip them to the right size, and this would give us the 4-inch depth of our case. So since I have things torn apart here, these are the components we're going to use for all of our cutting operations. We're going to use a miter slide, but not just yet. For our first cut, we're just going to rip them to size. Ripping means you're going to cut with the grain of the wood. So I'm going to cut these, and basically I'm going to cut 1.5 inches off of it to make a 4-inch piece. Now when you're ripping, the component we use is the rip fence. And this attaches to the table saw. It clamps down. It's a good solid clamp on. Doesn't move too much. Another tool I'm going to use with this is a push stick. Now when you're ripping things, you're guiding it along the rip fence as such. And for the most part, you can keep things lined up with the rip fence. But once you get through to a certain point, you don't want to get your fingers too close to the blade, so you use a push stick to guide it through. That way you can get close enough to the blade to keep the wood aligned with the rip fence without getting your fingers close enough to the blade to cut them off. Now the first part of this is we're going to pull our blade up so that it's actually exposed. And here you can see the blade. I'm not sure if you can see this in the camera frame or not, but the blade's sticking up here. I've got it set at a full 90-degree angle, so it's vertical. I've got a steel ruler. Now, what I want is, I want to make sure I have a full 4 inches. So I'm going to measure between the inside of the blade. Actually, I'm going to measure between the inside of one of the blade's teeth to the rip fence to get my 4 inches. That way, the saw kerf, or the cutout of the saw, will be on the 1.5 inch side. But when we get done, I'll show you. I'll have one side that's 4 inches. Actually, I'm going to make it 4 1/8 inches. And the other side will be less than, would normally be 1.5, take off 1/8 inch. It's not going to add up to 5.5 inches is what I'm saying. So, first of all, let me get my blade set up here. Now, the rip fence is really cool because it adjusts very easily. And I've got my 4 1/8 inch measured here, and I just lock it down. Okay, so this fence is locked down. It's not going nowhere. I can get the stuff off of it. Now, as you watch these videos, you're probably going to wonder, how come he never shows cutting the actual wood? Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, I don't have a sawdust system in my garage, and the dust gets everywhere, including all over the camera, all over the lens. So I don't want to ruin the camera. The other reason I don't show myself cutting is I really want to concentrate on my work. Remember, I still got all 10 of my fingers. So I don't want to be distracted by the camera. Whether you realize it or not, camera's kind of a distraction. When I play music, I still haven't gotten comfortable with playing in front of the camera. So I'm going to turn the camera off, put the safety guards on the table saw, and I'm going to rip the two pieces, then I'll show you how the difference is with the saw blade and the width of the blade. Okay, I've ripped both of these boards. This is going to be my side piece. And I made it 1/8 of an inch, so it's 4 1/8 inches. This is the piece that cut off. Now, it kind of looks like 1 1/2 inches. Ordinarily, it would be, well, 1 3/8 inches. But if I put these two back together and measure them, it should measure 5 1/2 inches, less the thickness of the blade. And it is just shy of 5 3/8 inches. So that blade took out a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch. That's the thickness of the blade. However, the piece that I cut is exactly 4 1/8 inches because I measured from the inside tooth of the blade to the rip fence. So the next operation I'm going to do is, I talked about cutting the bevel for the angular sides, the angles on the sides of the coffin. I'm going to cut that out of these side pieces, and that bevel is going to be cut like this. Now the long side is 21 inches, so I'm going to probably cut it about 24 inches from the end. And the reason for that is I have to cut a bevel on the other side too, and I'm not certain what that angle is yet. I still have to cut out and make my template for that. So once I get these cut, I'll cut both sides, both halves of the angle, fit them on the top and bottom to make sure I got the angle cut perfectly. And then I can start cutting the other angles all around. It'll be essentially the same process. So let me get my stuff put back on my saw and get to cutting. I'll show you how I set the blade up next. Okay, if you remember our geometry lesson from yesterday, I need to cut the bevel, which is actually this angle here. And I have to cut it on two different pieces. I'm going to cut the long side first. And in order to set this bevel up, remember I made the rectangle, I divided it in half, and I cut the angles. Well, all of those things lined up. And I cut them on a cardboard, and then I taped all 4 pieces of the cardboard together. This gives me a little block that I can use to adjust my blade. And this is just for the angle of the blade. Now what I'm going to do, once again, safety first, we're unplugged. I'm going to actually pull the blade up pretty high on this just to get the angle. I'll make the final adjustment of the blade depth when I get ready to cut. As I can see, I need a little WD-40 in my table saw because this blade's starting to bind it a little bit. But now you can see the blade coming up. It's about this high. I want to go higher. I want to go as high as I can on this so I can get a good accurate adjustment on the blade angle. So what I'll do is I have the miter slide here. I'm going to put it in the left side because this blade only angles over to the left. I'm going to use actually this would be the A side, or the sign. But I'm going to flip it so that side C, or the hypotenuse, is on the bottom. I'll put it in my miter slide. I've got my miter slide set at 90 degrees so that I'm flush with the blade. I'll loosen this up. And I can adjust the blade angle. And I just line it up with this. Actually, I could probably adjust the blade a little bit higher. Make sure I got the full angle here. And what I'm looking for is when I look through here, I don't want to see any light gaps at the top or the bottom. And I actually got this pretty close, so I'm going to lock it down. And this is the angle that I'm going to cut the wood at. Now, I'm not going to leave the blade this high to cut a 1/4 inch piece of stock. I've got the angle, it will just be the same angle, but as I lower the blade, it will just be less blade sticking out. I still want to have enough blade to cut through the stock though. So it's 1/4 inch, I'm going to probably have the blade sticking up about 3/8 of an inch, but that's going to be 3/8 of an inch vertical and not 3/8 of an inch this way. It's that crazy geometry and math thing. So let me cut my angles and get right back to it. Alright, now, this is the angle I cut. I don't know if I'll be able to do this, but these should fit. I'm not going to be able to do it, I don't have enough hands. But the way this will work is these two pieces will fit together, edge to edge, with no gap, and it makes that approximate angle. And it's pretty darn close. I could do it. I'm looking right down at it, and pretty darn close. So, I'm not really concerned about it being exactly on the mark. And the reason for that is there's a couple things that you do, a couple tricks. Number one is sawdust is your friend. Now I'm generating a lot of sawdust here, as you can see on the floor. Or you probably can't see. And what I'm going to do is when I glue these together, if there are any gaps, I will mix sawdust with glue and fill the gap with the sawdust glue mixture. And what that does is that makes a wood pipe. And it makes it so that you can actually stain your glue so that it matches the wood. So you shouldn't see any gaps, and if you do, if you see the wood glue, it will be the same color as the wood, so you won't even notice it. Now I'm looking down at this, and I got this pretty darn close. The only caveat that I have with this particular piece is that this wood, I should have noticed this sooner, but it's bowed a little bit. And that happens with wood. So when I get ready, there's actually enough flexibility in it that I can straighten it out. And what I'll do is with my joints, I'm actually going to toothpick all of my joints. And what that means is there's no metal in here at all. I will drill into the end of the wood. It's almost like surgery. I'm going to use a Dremel tool. And I'll glue the edge, and then through the hole, I'll put a toothpick, which acts like a peg. That will keep everything aligned while the glue sets up. And it gives it a little bit of extra strength. It's almost like a biscuit joint. It's got a piece of wood in through here and a piece of wood going through here, which is the toothpick. And that'll hold everything together while the glue sets up. So the next piece of this is I need to calculate and cut my angles on the ends. Now, once again, this angle here will be the same for both sides. I've already got both of these. Now this angle here will be a little bit different because this side's shorter, so the angle is going to be a little bit steeper. So let me get that done and we'll come back and cut some more, and hopefully with the next session or the next segment of this taping, I'll be able to start fitting things together and I'll have something to show. Okay, I got all my side pieces cut. And what I've done, these are the side pieces, they're all cut to their proper angle. Just to keep everything straight, I numbered them. Side 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Just so that in my head I can keep it straight where everything's going. Now, when I was working my top and the bottom, I clamped them together so that I could sand them. And they're pretty darn close. They're within a couple millimeters of each other. Now, what I did while I was clamping them, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but I marked the outside OS for outside. So this one's OS and this one's OS. So you put the ISs or insides together so that you know you've got a good fit and everything is going to be perfect when you go to do your final assembly. Now another thing that I did while off camera, I had some scrap 3/4 inch plywood. And I cut this, I'm going to make, I guess for lack of a better term, they're called gussets. And what these are going to do is I'm going to take my hot glue gun and just tack these in place at strategic points alongside here. And I measure them out just to keep them straight. And the way it should work is, the way I measured it, I cut them at the appropriate angle so that when I put the side pieces on, they'll go right up against these gussets, for lack of a better term. And I think I got this one upside down, go like this, and that's about perfect. So once I get these on, I can do a rough assembly and I can clamp everything together. Once again, clamps are your best friend here. You can put an assembly together and clamp it. That way I can go ahead and glue these side pieces together and put my peg pins in them. And it won't get all wiggly and it won't move around. It'll just stay where it's supposed to be. And I can see I've got a little bit short on the sides, which really isn't a big problem because I can sand and I can cut this off. This is a good straight angle. I can just zip that right off. I also have a belt sander that I can use. But in the meantime, I can go ahead and do my pre-assembly and I can start to actually glue these pieces together so that the tops and the bottoms will be set. Then I can work my way around. Now, I would film the gluing, but it's pretty boring. Once I get everything tacked together, oh, one other note. These gussets, I'm just going to tack them in place with some hot glue because when I get done with the assembly, I can just go in and break them out and then I don't have to have them in there. Now, I will use one or two of them. When I get to that point, I'm going to cut a hole in one of them and make it as a rest for the neck of the instrument so that it's not flopping around in it. But that's later. For now, I'm going to go ahead and hot glue these things in place and get ready to do my assembly with the sides, the two long side pieces. Okay, I made the center gussets and I tacked them in place with hot glue. They're just kind of strategically located in there. They're eyeballed in. They can probably wiggle around a little bit, but the point is, they're going to hold this together. I'm going to take my side pieces then and put them in here, and I can actually go ahead and finish glue them in place and just clamp the hell out of it for the glue to set up. What this will do for me is this will allow me in time to actually get the glue in there and get everything set up, and then I don't have to try and figure out angles and wiggle things in place and get them together. Now once again, clamps are your best friend. You can never have too many clamps. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll glue these pieces in place, and then when I get the whole thing put together, then I'll show you the operation for putting in the pins, which is you might call it doweling, I call it toothpicking. And that's just a nice way of holding things in place. So that's what we have for now.
This is on the battery. That's a Duracell battery. That's a power you can trust.
Okay, now we're going to start pegging this together. And what we're going to do is the piece that fits here, let me unstuck it. The piece that fits here is this piece. And what we're going to need to do is we're going to drill into it. And we're going to drill to match this angle. So the reason I have this here is I just need a vertical clamp for this because I'm going to be drilling into this end. So I have this angle clamp right here. It looks like one of these. It's got two clamps, so I'm only using one. And I'm just using it to clamp this upright so I can drill into it. Now, this is only a 1/4 inch thick. Yeah, maybe get a little bit more of it because you're going at an angle, but I'm going to drill like halfway through it. So I have to use a small drill bit. And I'm not going to use my big drill because that's kind of hard to maneuver. So I'm going to use a Dremel tool. Dremel tools are great because you can do very detailed work. Now, unfortunately, my little tiny drill bit is actually too tiny for the chuck on the Dremel tool. So I've taken the masking tape and just wrapped it around the end to make it a little bit bigger in diameter so that it'll fit in the chuck. And I went a little too big on this, so I'm cutting it down. So maybe I'll get lucky right now and it'll go in. Nope, gotta cut a little bit more off. This isn't an exact science, but this is kind of an improvise. They make an adjustable chuck for a Dremel tool that'll go down to almost infinite thickness, or in this case, thinness. I think this ought to get it. And what you're looking for is, yeah, see, that's perfect. Now when I tighten this up, the collet will tighten down on the drill bit's secure, and it won't shake loose when I drill into this workpiece. Just tighten that in, and the drill bit's in place. Now this is actually a 5/32. No, actually it's a 3/32 inch drill bit. And what I did was I compared it to the width of a toothpick. Now with the toothpicks, just plain old round toothpicks, I cut the pointy ends off, so now it's actually a piece of dowel, only it's very, very tiny. So, 5. I want piece number 4, because that's going to go here. This is piece number 4. And this is the end I'm going to drill into. Now I'm going to drill, because this is going to fit right here. And I'm going to actually pre-drill my holes into here. Now what I do with this is I'm putting this piece of wood here as a backer. And what that will do for me is that will keep the drill from breaking through and chipping out the wood on the actual workpiece. So instead of breaking through, it'll just keep drilling because it's so tightly clamped to the other piece of wood in the back. I'm just clamping the heck out of it, which is what we're known to do here. So I'm going to drill 4 holes. I wish you could actually see this. I'm just going to put like just a mark there, just kind of equidistant. They're about 1 inch apart because it's 4 inches and 1/8. I think I'm going to actually put a second clamp on here just to make sure that we're not going to break through. Because I want this to be really clean and I won't have to worry about it. Now I'm going to go in at the angle that the the bevel is cut at. So let me just get this. I don't need to go real fast, so I can turn down the Dremel tool, and just get it started. Maybe I can go a little faster. There, I'm through. Now, this particular hole, I can find a toothpick that I cut, which I can't. The thing is just a toothpick. And it sounds like they turned up the suck dial on the music, because I'm really not liking this. Now, I can actually put the toothpick in the hole, and it goes in, about that far. So this is a good one here. I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill the rest of these, and then when I get it done, I can show you what the outside of the workpiece looks like. Okay. Now these are done. And if you actually look at this, I'll even come in closer. It put like teardrop holes in the side here. Now the toothpick will go in through here, and the way I drilled it, it should go exactly straight into the other workpiece. So what I'll do is I'll glue and clamp this in place. Glue and clamp it in place, and then I'll use these pilot holes to drill in the rest of the way, and they should go directly straight into the workpiece here. Once I get that done, I'll show you. Alright, I've drilled the holes, and I actually mounted this in place pretty close. It could use a little bit of fine adjustment. I glued it on all three sides that are touching, on this side and on this, the top and the bottom. Now, I only drilled the holes on piece number 4. You can look at this. You see the little teardrop holes. Now I'm going to use those holes as a pilot hole. I should be able to drill exactly straight down into the side piece. So that being said, the drill's going to go in at an angle like this to match this piece. Okay, I got one. Now these teardrop holes are actually going to look pretty cool because that's membrane on my little tiny dowels or my toothpicks. And when I sand them down, there'll be little teardrop shapes that'll be a slightly different color. So it'll look kind of cool. Now I take one of my dowels and I can put it in, and that goes in perfect. It's put all 4 of them in so you can see. And really, the whole point of this, aside from it looking cool, it kind of keeps it from shifting around while the glue dries. Especially a doofus like me who tends to move things around. But there you can see the 4 tiny dowels. Now to keep those in place, I'll actually put glue on them, and that'll help strengthen it as well. I'll put glue on the toothpicks, or dowels as I say. And you only need to glue one side, like half of it, leave enough for your fingers to grab hold of. Because once you stick it in the hole, that glue is going to ooze out. And I just kind of work it back and forth to give extra glue in the hole. And that'll set up nice. And I'll do the other 3. It doesn't take a lot of glue. You can never have too many clamps, but you can have too much glue because sometimes it can be an awful mess if you get too much in there. And it's going to have to be sanded down. Now the other thing that I have to be very aware of is as I do these, I have to be very critical on which pieces I put the holes in so that it's symmetrical. So I don't put exterior holes in piece number 3, which will be the end. And then on piece number 2, I'll put the holes in. Now, that sounds kind of OCD, but that's how to do this right. Alright, so I'm going to let this set up. And in the meantime, I'll go ahead and prep piece number 3 to fit in here. That's 2. That's 6. 6 and 3 are identical, by the way. Here's 3. Now this will go right in here. And I could almost drill that right now. However, this piece number 3 is a little bit bowed. So what I'll do is I'll get the end set up and I'll put a pin in just to hold it in place. Then I'll put the other ones in and then I can bend it into shape when I put the last pin in. That'll keep it, it'll stretch, it'll take the bow out of it and it'll secure it.